Got, she is. Where's Carolyn these days anyway? Okay.
Jessica, I wanted to thank you for having one side print.
You gotta thank Liz.
Liz, I know it takes more paper, but it's so much easier for me to read, and I can't write through the. I mean, if I left-handed, I like it that way, but I like it this better. Thank you.
A little bit.
Yeah, it does, yeah. I looked at it first, I thought, geez, big meeting.
It's 2:03 p.m. I'd like to call to order Georgetown Divide Public Utility District Board of Directors meeting. Liz, would you like to take roll call? Please?
We're gonna do pledge.
Okay. All right. President McDonald, would you lead us in the pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Call to order, roll call and pledge of allegiance. That's
Director Stovall,
Present.
Director Saunders,
Present.
Vice President and Seaman, President Treasurer Thornbrook,
here.
and President McCollum.
Present. Okay. May I get a motion to adopt the agenda?
Motion to adopt the agenda.
Second.
Second. So, let's see. Director, who did it first? You said,
I did.
oh,
He seconded.
Director Thornborough, made the initial. Director Stovall seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. I'll read the public forum statement. Okay. Pursuant to the Government Code Section 54954.3, the Brown Act, members of the public shall be afforded the opportunity to speak on any agenda item. The board president will call the public comment on each agenda item. Those wishing to address the board on a matter that is not on the agenda and within the jurisdictional authority of the district may do so during the public forum portion of the agenda. Following the procedures below for speaking during public forum or public comment sessions. Public members desiring to provide comments must raise their hand and wait to be recognized by the board president speaking from the podium and begin by stating their name. If participating via teleconference, please utilize the raise your hand feature. The president will call upon you by addressing you by your name or phone number as indicated. Comments must be directed only to the board. Disruptive conduct shall not be permitted at any board meeting. Persistence in disruptive conduct shall be grounds for summary determination of the privilege to address the board. There's a 5-minute time limit per speaker and or 20 minutes in combination in total. The board is not permitted to take action on items addressed under the public forum. And the board president is responsible for maintaining an orderly meeting. So I now open the floor to the public.
Comment. Can we get a 30-second warning if we get to 4 minutes and 30 seconds?
It'll
Where do we see it at?
it'll light up differently.
I mean,
Oh.
so you're gonna have that up there?
Yes.
Oh, look at that.
Okay, so
Okay.
opening the floor, Mr. Dowd.
Start the timer.
State your name, Mr.
General
Dowd.
Manager. Well, I measured 72 inches of rain this year. It was,
I'm
might be
curious.
plus or minus 2 or
Yeah.
3
Mhm.
because of the snow. We had 3 feet of snow here in town. And that was tough to measure because it was way above my glass. So I guess the name. But we're doing good. I've only seen 1 year better than this, and that was like 12 years ago, maybe 10. We had 120 inches. So this is like the second best. We're doing good. And I hope we can use our water. So, and I know it's still snowy up there, because I saw pictures.
Don't forget, it's not us who's telling you no.
Yeah.
You still got 4 minutes. Just a comment.
Get it done quick.
I think we're old enough now to have seen 2 100-year winters in one lifetime.
Hey, it's not over yet, is it? Either.
Okay, any further? Go ahead, Sheree.
Just a couple of cookies. Today's agenda has 4 pages, but the last page has 1 of 4 on it. to be 404. And, yes, I should have done that before you. And well, I got it when we get to the, minute. Oh, the only other thing is, can we have the agenda put in the first meeting packet like we've always had it?
That's probably fine.
It just wasn't, it was last month, not this one. Okay, thanks.
Okay, that's it. All right. Was that? Oh, up there. Nothing? Okay. Now,
You
like,
have some public, so you want to make sure you ask if there's anybody.
okay, public, any comments?
There's only one public.
Just two.
Oh, Carolyn,
Yeah.
All right.
At this time, I would like to ask for approval for the consent calendar.
Let's make some brief comments before the approval. Yep, I am aware we keep seeing the reduction in the irrigation miners inches, and I don't know if we didn't post the waiting list. Is there a waiting list? That's
As far as I know, there is not.
but there is no waiting list.
The counts didn't look like there was.
We accepted some that were. That submitted late, so basically everything that was submitted, we approved.
So everybody who was on the waiting list last year was notified. Because I know there were some people that said they've been on the waiting list for 10 years, you know. There is no longer a waiting list.
There are also. There's a process that needs to be followed to be. Accepted as an irrigation customer, like if you have treated water, you need a backflow device, you need to have it certified. If you haven't met those expectations, you don't qualify to apply.
Yeah, but I don't know, did we make sure we contacted anybody that was on the waiting list? That was my.
If someone comes in, then we can address them and make sure there's no waiting list moving forward.
Thank you, Director Saunders. Mr. Silva?
Another comment again on the irrigation, it appears as though we have a savings of water out of the ditch. Is that possible when there is demand to increase the number of irrigation customers in the future? Because there's
Yes, there is.
600 to 800.
There is opportunity in certain areas, yes.
In regard to the leakage consideration policy, I appreciate having the smart meter being addressed.
Tom?
Do we ever put out like to say an advertisement or something, a notification, maybe it's. That there is water available for the season,
I'm gonna-
instead of saying, just assuming they know to come in and ask.
I would have to get back to you on that. I'm not sure how that's handled. This is my first season of doing that. And I think that's a good idea that we should put out that there is an availability to apply if you have a need or an interest.
Since we have in certain areas, we have quite a few inches available.
Yeah, there is a considerable amount in certain areas.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Just
I just-
point of order, you guys are discussing stuff that's on the consent calendar, you need to pull them. The discussion, correct?
If you're making substantive changes to them, yes.
Well. Okay.
Okay, it's normal to put things on the consent calendar that are not controversial. So that's why these items here, A through F, are on here now. I'd like to open it to the public for comment.
Well, you have to aren't you going to pull the minutes? Did I have a question?
Did anybody say they wanted to pull?
No,
I did, I sent you an email.
yes, but that's up to the board, someone to make a recommendation on the board. It's up to the board's discretion.
No, if she,
You're free to make your comment and we can just, and if you have a correction that needs to be made, you're free to make your.
And then we could pull it if we agree.
well, time out for a second, because I know exactly what she's talking about. The public was told that if they wanted to poll something on the agenda, on like a consent calendar, have that polled, then they needed to send one of us board members a notice ahead of time. So
Sure.
what she's saying, she sent Mitch a notice ahead of time that she would like to have that polled. So she has the right to have that pulled because she did exactly what we told her needed
I
to do.
think it still needs to be, what is the comment that she is trying to address, because it still is up to the board whether or not that is pulled. So if you can make your comment based on what it is that you'd like to make a comment on, and then the board will decide whether or not that's something that warrants discussion.
It's like corrections.
That's, I totally understand, so
Okay.
could you tell us what your corrections are, so then
Sure.
we can,
On the March 6th, under public comment, I see that my public comment is at the end, but there's no mention under public comment that I made a public comment. Like it did on the, now you get to.
so
the
you
board-
made comment on March 6th during the adoption of the agenda.
Correct. No, during public comment.
You tried to make the same public comment again during public comment, and we did not receive it the second time, we received it the first time under the adoption of the agenda.
Okay, I emailed it and it came in and it's at the end of the minutes.
Yeah, it's an attachment, like an addendum to the board meeting.
And I made it during public comments and then I submitted written
You-
records.
You made your
Okay.
comment during. You made your comment during the adoption of the agenda portion of the meeting.
No, that's because you were trying to mute me in the phone and I couldn't hear. And then, and also that meeting minutes or the agenda had the wrong phone number on top of it. We didn't get an email. There was a list of things wrong with that meeting. The date was wrong. There were numerous things. So I couldn't hear. If you're ever on the phone, it's very difficult to hear. I didn't know if Mitch was talking or who was saying what.
To clarify, for the March 6th meeting, you were on Mr. Dowd's phone.
Yeah, because I couldn't get in because the phone number was wrong on the agenda. It was 699 instead of 669. Just saying. Okay. And then, okay, on the 14th meeting minutes, there's no report out of closed session. It just says closed session report out and no report out.
There was no report out. There was nothing to report.
Nothing was reported out from
Correct.
closed. Okay, so then maybe it should say no report out.
We
Because it
could-
doesn't say that.
Maybe if I could have Christina, can we amend that? There was no report out of closed session, so I mean, I would imagine that.
Okay, and then my other question is, why are we switching to military time when most everybody is on regular time? I have to do math to figure out what time. I mean, we've always been 8 o'clock or 2 o'clock, now it's 2000.00 on the minutes.
Oh,
It doesn't say you adjourned at 8 o'clock, it says 20.0
2000.
military time.
Okay.
Okay, I'm just saying that shouldn't be that way. And then, okay, that's it for those.
Okay. Noted, would any board member like to pull or any parts of this consent calendar for discussion?
Yes, brief comments for the minutes, so you can keep that in standard time if that's what we do. That's. up there.
Okay. So we get a motion. Anybody up there?
So we can do a motion with those changes that were
Yes, we can make a motion with the amended changes.
so made.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Okay. Financial reports.
So the financial reports will include all reports of the budget to actuals, the pool's cash report, the monthly check report for January and February, and then the year-to-date vendor report that encompasses all of those things. So if the board has any questions, Jessica is here to answer.
Any comments from the board, questions?
We still have that. New partners counting down in the money. It's positive. I think that was, with the zone fund, that was from when we had this study where you were taking down from the zone fund, so I think that was just change that. That we show a negative fund balance.
On the
It's yeah, I believe that's. Nine of nine of the fund summary.
Of what? 9 of 9 were?
Of the zone fund summary, of the zone. fund
Yeah.
is positive, but it just starts out with a negative number. Looks like all the grant stuff got fixed, so I don't see a lot of those.
Get that, Liz? Jessica?
Yeah, it's slowly getting fixed. It was just the way that the budget was entered into the system, so the pooled cash wasn't set up correctly, so the pooled cash is supposed to be invisible. So that when you're putting things in the funds or deducting costs and putting credits into the funds, it's giving you a balance. But this is actually the budget. So it entered the budget amount as a credit, which is a negative amount. So we're trying to fix that.
So that was, you're referring to water fund 100, the line item -3.
No, it's.
No, the zone 200.
Fund in the summary.
It's showing that the original budget was negative $576,000.
9 of 9. Okay.
Yes.
Brianna.
And zone fund, it's 200.
Mhm.
See, that's a
Oh, I
negative
see.
number,
Yeah,
so the
yeah.
start- It should be a starting.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Any other board member? Anything else to report, Jessica?
No, we are still working with the auditors. There's no update yet. They've been asking for information and we will continue to provide them with whatever they request, but we haven't had any kind of status update.
Okay. Are we ready for? Public?
Yeah.
Oh, there's one. Okay.
Why is the audit not done?
It just started yesterday.
Last year's audit?
The fiscal year ending June 30th, 22.
Yeah,
Yes.
they just started it.
Well, we didn't sign the contract with them until the second quarter of this fiscal year.
Okay,
And then we had to clean up Tyler for them not to have a million findings.
okay. The, on one of the checks in here, it's, Wilkerson portables for 3,500. Why are we now doing that instead of Royal?
Wilkinson Portable has always been our company.
It was Royal, something.
That's the portable in the back.
It said Wilkerson on it,
Yes.
but that's not Royal Septic. It's somehow the septic system got changed about within the last 2-3 months.
We haven't changed vendors.
I'm not sure I follow, what you're.
Okay, originally Royal Septic was our porta potty person.
Okay, they're not anymore.
Right, why did that happen?
It was before my time.
Kenneth Royal does the porta potties up at Walton. We
Okay,
never
so
had
that's
him
why he
here.
never did do these, okay, well, anyway, he died, so.
Well, maybe that's why we don't use them anymore.
Well, no, his son is doing it, but I'm just saying.
As far as, that's always been
Welcome.
the same company.
Okay.
I don't think it's 3,000.
No,
Well,
that's
there's
the
a-
top to date.
The what?
That's the vendor purchasing report.
For the year, like a year.
How come on the, budget summary, under where you have the different, departments, it doesn't add up the departments, which would be on page 7 of 9 of the group summary? Is there any place in these records that actually add up each department total? Because what it appears it does is it just takes away from the budget.
We're talking about the top.
Well, is the top, the addition to 2,348, is that the total?
I'm not seeing that number. Are you on page 7?
7 of 9, and it says group summary.
Yes. What part of the page are you looking at?
Okay, oh, under fiscal activity.
Are you saying 2 million?
Well, at the top, it's 2,348,000.
Okay,
Okay. That says non-departmental, I don't know what that is. And then each one of the ones after that is what's in the, each account.
yes, what we've spent so
Yeah.
far.
Right, and then there's like a minus 1,404,000. I don't understand how it's adding, subtracting.
I don't either, and they're
Okay.
fixing that right now. And it
Okay.
has to do with the pool cash being not being set up correctly in the
Okay.
beginning.
Okay, so then also under the checks, have you still asked somebody to find out if you can put EFT,
Then you.
the fund, automatic fund transfers in with the check report? Because there is a.
No, because we don't do EFTs through the Tyler
Well,
system, that's through the bank account, so we could. I believe that we can publish bank statements.
I mean, I've asked before. No, I don't want.
There's no report, it's only journal entries, and that's why I sent you the journal entries, because every time there's an EFT, when we do the monthly reconciliation. for the bank account, that is recorded in the journal entry.
Yeah, it will say EFT.
It'll say bank charges,
But I did.
But it won't say necessarily EFT.
no. I mean, that's a person putting that in, so the person would have to specify that it was an EFT, but usually when it's a bank charge.
Okay.
It'll say bank charge, or it'll say, ADP fee, something like that, because ADP has access where they draft our account. So it would say what the draft was for.
Here now.
Mhm.
Well, it's just that there's the monthly financials where you can't see the checks and the automatic transfer in a report.
That's because the checks all go through Tyler,
Sure,
and the EFTs are not associated with Tyler unless a human puts in a journal entry.
but that's something that to me that's missing from the finances is knowing what's automatically taken out.
I agree with that.
But we were just on financials. Okay, that's it.
Did I miss something?
You can move on, we were done with the financial report. Let's-
No, I had one question, just for clarification. Getting back, to the budget report, Department 5600, I'm just noticing that 75% into the fiscal year, we've got 100% of the budget used, or all the 5%. Has this been discussed last time or been explained to the board, and this has already been? Like for instance, part-time wages, it has a negative 60,000 in the.
There was nobody,
There's no budget.
there was no budget for part-time wages. We had a part-time employee. And at the time, and so that would be our retired annuitant, and we have a interim board clerk position
Mhm.
that was being taken out of part-time wages. Unfortunately, that was never budgeted for last year
Mhm.
when the budget was put together, so that it was just something that was missed when the budget was originally constructed.
Okay.
I think that originally, when I was hired, those positions were considered temporary and they weren't going to be going through this fiscal year. So they didn't budget for it, and then they stayed on.
Yeah, that's a good explanation.
Okay, and just a couple other ones, staff development,
The staff development was under.
one time.
Under a budget again, that we had to do some training for the Tyler, for the
Okay.
girls up in front. And we also had to do some staff training for the cartograph training
Mhm.
that we've been doing for the outside guys and the girls at the office, so that they can be able to input the tickets. And update how that software is operating.
I think I recall what we discussed last.
Yeah,
time.
we discussed it at the budget.
And we got insurance, general liability seems to be,
It was so
The
we can
fire?
only, no, it has to do with our JPIA, it comes in about 5 to 7% higher every year.
yeah,
And so when the budget was put together last year, they utilized the number from the previous year and didn't account for the increase in percentage.
okay. And let me just, let's randomly one more here, travel,
Travel was.
I think that was discussed, but
It was, and it was my travel,
okay,
partially for going for to Aqua.
okay. All right, that's all I have. Can we move on to informational items now? Nicholas?
Yes, it's gonna be for you guys to do board reports, so you guys are free to go to your board reports.
Oh, Okay. Director Stovall, how would you like to lead off?
Again, I have nothing to report for the last period.
Okay,
I second him.
second him. All in. Director Seamus? I would say all in favor.
Just say you.
Yeah,
There you go.
noted.
Which is pretty funny, her being the vice president and all.
That's probably why he's doing this.
Yeah, then,
I've only, attended the irrigation committee,
Mhm.
and that was it, so, and we'll have that report later.
okay. Director Saunders.
If I have a written report in, the only things to add is, Nicholas and I did go to the Board of Supervisors meeting to thank them for, changing the policy. Now the, chief administrative officer can submit grants for the FEMA hazard mitigation grant program. And that's a big boon for special districts, because, we don't usually have the access to that, so that's one way we can get grant funding. And the other major thing that I've been doing at a lot of these meetings is the water use efficiency study. So these are the guidelines that'll be coming up for the district's water budget. So I've been putting in comments and working with coalitions for the New Mountain counties for the outdoor standards that we're going to face and the variances. So things to help the district. And with LAFCO, I will be having them update the district's contact information because it's pretty outdated.
Mhm.
And that's all I have.
So,
Oh, the other thing,
Yeah.
I guess it does tie
Yes,
into legislative reports, so I could go right onto that.
would you, but first.
Yep.
I have a board. Okay, outside the regular board meeting monthly, we went, Director Seamus and I, we did the agenda planning session with Nicholas. We also attended, general manager and I with the operations manager and the Adam to ALT town hall, which was a smashing success because of you. I mean, I got good feedback. I got really good feedback. The community said they seemed genuine and truly concerned about the community and getting to a good relationship with them. And you offered your business cards and direct access should they have any questions. And I recall one of the residents in the community needed to have power to get his water pump from the
Yeah, there's a backup a booster pump that when the PSPS is from PG&E come out, they
Mhm.
lose water access.
So you jumped right on top of that and
I'll say that that was a meeting on Thursday, and by Monday, we have a solution in place. We're gonna get money from the state of California to provide generators to all those backup. To all those booster pumps throughout the district. So the state of California is gonna be writing in about $100,000 for generators for the district. It was a good news report. You stole my thunder.
well, I'm
It's not, so this is one of our pump stations, not an individual owned booster pump. that you
No,
have.
it's a booster pump that we own
Okay.
that supplies, it's 5 or 7 houses. I don't know exactly.
He
the
said
number.
5, I
I
think.
think it's 5, but it's all, of them. They're just above the Angel Camp tank.
Mhm.
And so when the power is on, pumps up there, no problem. But anytime that PG&E shuts the power off for the
Mhm.
fire danger, those 5 homes lose water coverage, which is definitely not a good thing. It's not safe.
Mhm.
They kind of freak out. So what I was originally gonna do is purchase some mobile generators that we could mobilize if those happened, if that PSPS happened. We, Director Saunders and I met with our local state senator, Maria Alvarado Gill. And she and her staff are working on writing us into the state budget for $100,000 to provide. We have 4 of those booster pumps that don't have power, so we're gonna get 4 generators for those booster pumps.
Were you able to reach out to that resident or we still?
I have not yet.
Okay.
I was out of town because of the holidays
Mhm.
and I have not. It was.
I'll make we'll talk.
Yeah, if you wanna set up a meeting, I'd be happy to.
Let's find out who he is. I could
Yes.
just door knock and,
I think Adam knows who it is, and unfortunately Adam's out of town now as well.
right.
What size wattage are those generating?
They're all different.
Oh.
They're all different. They're all different based on the need for the booster pump.
And other than that, Nicholas and I attended the El Dorado County School District's award dinner. That was pretty nice for being an outstanding community organization. I think I saw the plaque when I came in the door. It's looking pretty good. And that's all I have.
I think he just went down your report and pulled out the things he wanted to take credit for.
That's funny, I can say that's fine.
Moving right along. Legislative report, Representative.
Are there any questions for any of the bills that we have?
Yeah, in regard to SB 338, looking at that on the 2 pages, on 1 page. CSDA wants to oppose that, and on the next page. I'm not sure who that refers to, is supportive. This has to reimburse local agencies for costs mandated by the state. AB 338.
Yeah, so the Mountain counties wanted to support it, Aqua wanted to oppose it. And I believe we showed the position of. We showed the
Oppose.
position of oppose,
Okay,
because it puts unnecessary burdens for us to try and get the fuel mitigation and things like that. It puts extra paperwork and stuff that has to be put through.
so the administrative costs are not
And
reasonable
bureaucratic
for,
red tape.
I completely understand.
Any questions on the legislation? And the end of, I'll have some more bills coming up that we can put on to look for the next time. The only other thing to add is executive order M535 came out, which was the governor's declaration on the drought emergency. And basically what it did, the main things was it did remove the state mandate of 15% conservation for the district, and it removed us from stage 2. So we no longer have to start out at stage 2, and when we do our water shortage contingency plan and annual year, will just be based on the data where we are, so we don't have any restrictions put on us.
So voluntary at this point.
Yeah.
Very good. What was that SB thing you first stated?
AB 338.
Oh, what was that about?
That basically is, so that bill is it expands the definition of public works to include fuel reduction work done under contract and paid in whole or part by public funds. So anything that would be part of a fire mitigation process would have to be public works, which means you would have to get the whole standard of
Has to do with prevailing wage. Prevailing wage. So we opposed it because we don't want to pay prevailing wage when we do firework.
so think of volunteers from Growlersburg and things like that.
So that would not count.
Exactly.
The Growlersburg would not count, but if we hired a outside contractor, they would have to bid the job based on prevailing wage. So
Increase the cost.
it's significant.
Thank you.
Any more public comment? Okay, moving on to operations managers report.
Well, I'm gonna be your Adam stand-in for today, and I'm definitely not gonna do as good a job as he does, but I'm gonna mother to. Our operations manager is on a much needed vacation, so. He's enjoying Florida right now.
Good for him.
Stumpy is still full, 100%, still spilling at this point. You can see the graphs, the charts for our production of food water. His notes to me are. We are clearing the ditch in preparation for irrigation season. If anybody came up the cool side, you saw them doing some work right there on the exposed ditch by Greenwood. They're doing a bunch of work on that way. Moving forward with all of our CIP projects. So I'll give my second good news report right here, and I'll circumvent my rest of my general manager's report. So we're starting with the AMI project in the ALT. We're meeting with them next week to set up one of their towers to start gathering the data into the district. In addition to the $100,000 we got from the state senator, we're also working on $250,000 to do the rest of the AMI work. That will also be coming from the state of California. So will be written into the state budget for that as well, and that's going to help with water use efficiency and the ability for us to gather that data more quickly. We're gonna be doing the master meters. We're working on chimney flat line replacement. We're working on the follow-up payment for that. Planning for the lining projects. So we do have a grant for canal lining. Unfortunately, we're trying to get it scheduled before we go into irrigation season, but with the timing, we may or may not be able to, but since if the board accepts the move from May 1st to June 1st in the board later action items, then we may be able to get some of it done before the season. So that's something we're preparing for. And then we are just waiting for the snow to melt so we can get up and see how much damage is done up north. We really still haven't gotten eyes on everything. We know that there's sloughing, we know there's erosion in areas, so we have to do some major cleanout of the ditches before we can really assess what the damage is. So that's gonna be the operations report. I don't have all the stats that Adam usually has, so but you can read them in his report.
I just got one question, so the AMI project is completed, the AMO project?
I think that, don't quote me on it, I believe there's a couple of hangers on meters that we're still installing here and there, but it's less than 50.
Well,
What's
it's,
that?
Oh,
well, we'll look into it. I don't know. That's
Your
that's.
opinion?
I
if you
do,
can
I
wait till
do.
Next month, I'll definitely get you the answer for that.
No, they've been paid in full.
They have been paid in full. There are a few that we are doing.
Right, but they aren't part of the contract.
Correct, yes.
Right,
They're-
that's the way Adam explained it to me, was that it was deducted from the contract. Our guys are putting them in, but as far as everything that was in the contract, including the 9,000 and some credit for the
Yeah.
two things. And retention's been just paid last week, I think. So they are paid in full.
Yeah, so that,
Ferguson.
yes, that portion of the AMRs, I apologize, that is done correct. There are a few meters that we are still installing that we have as. It's an accessibility issue with why we're doing. Easier for us to get into some of those areas.
Oh, Mr. Dowd?
Now that the meters are in, we're doing the drive-by meter reading. How's that going smoothly?
I would have to ask Jessica, because that's more her department than mine.
Oh,
I'd say like there's one out of every 300 that it just doesn't read. So our guys have to go back and get a reread on it. But it's nice, it comes in an Excel spreadsheet and easy to put in the system. We don't have to have the girls out there with hundreds of books going through page after page, manually entering. Saves a lot of time.
And once the AMI is installed, those Excel spreadsheets will come right to the office, so the driving will be less.
that's what that tower's for.
Yes, there was gonna be one, they're doing a test. We're gonna be installing one in ALT on the Angel Camp tank, and it'll do most of ALT. The funding that we're gonna get from the state will be to find the locations for the rest of the towers. Our goal is to get to between 90 and 95%. We probably won't get to 100 just because there are certain areas throughout the district, unless we wanted to spend another 100 grand. But I think the return on investment would not be wise.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Jessica.
My front office staff says there's only 10 meters left that haven't been installed and Saunders got his meter.
So I said,
You were at the end of,
That gets on 9,000 in, but no notification, nothing.
I said less than 50, and I was right.
I know the ones that have, because they, GPUD staff keeps coming up and down, so I know where that one is that needs to be done. It's in the guy's back area.
Sheree?
How long is it actually taking now? Or is it one person driving around? Because before it was 3 or 4 trucks, 2 people.
I don't know. You know? I have no idea. That's an Adam Brown question.
Okay, he's not here, do you know?
I know, man.
Unfortunately, I can't answer that.
Okay, I guess I'll
How much
email.
more efficient, I guess, is it?
I would
Yeah,
say
for sure.
Is what they're asking.
Definitely a lot more
Much
efficient.
more.
They don't
Oh,
have to
yeah.
get out of the truck.
Yeah, okay, on page 2, is that a new chart? Because it used to be like a graph on the operations report.
page 2 is a summary of the fieldwork activities.
Correct.
So this is a chart of all of this is coming straight out of the cartograph. And this
Okay.
is showing how much we're spending for all of the different call outs that we have. So when people are going out to work on certain things, it's breaking them down by how much they cost.
Okay, and then are you going to, or is there a part in there where each department, it would break down the grand totals for each department?
So the departments are listed in there.
Right, but it's. There's got it in that program, there should be. Well, you would want to know how much is coming out of 5,400. How much is coming out of,
We budget for all these in the overall budget. Is that what you're asking?
no, I'm asking what you're spending. Having grand totals, what you're spending.
And
For each
itemized
department.
breakdown.
It will.
Yeah.
There's numerous reports in that system
Okay.
that
All right,
We don't
it's
need it
possible
here.
to get that report.
and I didn't hear, what was this metal building from? The one with the crashed, damage in the picture, bottom left hand corner?
Wasn't that?
That might be,
Is that the water treatment
it
plant?
might be the building on the bottom of the water treatment plant. Alexis, do you know what that is?
I haven't even seen,
I thought that was the storage building back here that
no,
collapsed and broke a main.
I don't know.
From the snow?
I think it was due to the
Here.
cold temperatures.
I don't know what, it's
I have no
painted
idea
yellow.
what that is.
Yeah, it's Adam mentioned.
Is it scary? So much stuff.
Unfortunately.
Like the building.
I'll also give you a hint.
Mm-mm.
So to-
They're
Yeah.
in the second section of the agenda packet, 5 through 7.
Here.
I'm down one side.
Now here, you can use that if you want.
Both.
The boat, yeah,
I'm here.
here, pattern.
I get off work really kind of. Bottom of here.
Water Resources Management.
So we had 121 routine inspections, 7 escrows. We were under our daily discharge amount this month, which is interesting because we did have 15 inches of rainfall. So Brian's idea is that pump that we switched out is just working way more efficient. We had a bunch of sampling. We got to meet with Bennett Engineering and we did a Station 16 evaluation. That's to upgrade it so that we can kind of not have these overflow issues anymore. And we're kind of, I'm still emailing them stuff over and over of easements and specs and all that stuff. So they're still in the gathering stage of that. We did get a report back on that WDR update from the county. It's looking like they don't want to be involved. So we're just kind of gathering our next steps from here.
We may have to force them.
Yeah, that's the one thing I was gonna say is if you want to just change the permit and.
Well, we're still working on it. We got a report back that we knew we knew they were gonna say no. And so we were just kind of following the game plan of what's next. It's you can say no, but we're gonna continue to play the game and we're gonna continue to say that this is your responsibility, not ours.
And then my second page, Nick and I had kind of talked about doing kind of a weather report. This one was kind of lackluster. We basically are average on everything. They don't foresee us having above average temperatures or below for the next couple of months. They also didn't really project that we were going to have above average rain or any more snow above or below. So everything was neutral. But I did find it interesting that they were talking about the El Nino is officially over, which is that cooling period. So now we're in the transition of the El Nino, which is the warming. But because of all the water we've recently gotten and the snowpack and everything, it's supposed to be a rather slow transition. And yeah.
Director Stoll.
It's my recollection, that El Nino is when we get more rain.
Correct, that's
So
what it's.
warming, so we're gonna get even more rain.
So
So
last year
they-
was El Nino, which
Right.
was less rain.
Right.
They called this year a La Nina and we got
Okay.
the most rain we've ever had.
Yeah, I don't.
Just,
So-
that's what I thought.
I'm not sure that plays anymore.
Yeah. I did find it interesting too. They were looking at the possibilities of flooding from the snow melting and we actually were not on that area. It was all below us. So Hopefully it's gonna just kind of gradually melt, not nuke us, but who knows?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if Noah even knows.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Richard Saunders, you have a question?
Well, that's one of the bills that I'll be putting on, I think, is one of the fundamentals for now. Because one of the least studied stuff is our atmospheric rivers, which is probably the most important thing in terms of the rain recipients move and flooding impacts and all of that. That's one thing they're working.
Aqua took a support position on that, so I think we did as well.
Okay, general manager's report.
I believe if you want to ask for the public on water resources, I'm not sure.
Oh, yeah, sure. I didn't see any hands up, but sure, public questions?
Okay,
Oh, I guess I do.
No.
So in the future, if we have questions or comments, there's just a free time you have to email prior or anything.
so just after the item is done, the board president will offer public comment, so you can comment on each item individually.
You got time limits for whatever you
5
want.
minutes.
That's. So I'm just trying to, for all the stuff.
Totally fine.
I know all the stuff lately and trying to get it down.
No problem. We appreciate the participation.
Yeah, I'll ask for public comment. I didn't see any hands raised, but if you want, I could, I'll take note.
Delayed.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah.
I think
So
she just
gentlemen-
made her comment. I think she just made her comment.
Yeah.
So I'll just go over a few highlight things from the general manager report. I met with Ken Payne from the El Dorado Water Agency, and they're going to be helping us pay for some of our environmental work on the canal lining and the canal piping. It has to do with a need to prove water savings within the county. So we are going to be their proof of water savings by canal lining. So they're going to offer us some funding to help pay for those environmental costs. I attended a portion of the CSDA's Leadership Academy, which is the legislative relations 101. It was a 3-part series, grassroots, take action, and then media relations. To reiterate that I attended the board of supervisors meeting with Director Saunders. Met with the state senator. Again, reiterate what Director McDonald stated, that I attended the awards dinner, which was great that we were recognized, and I'll say that we received the award, and it was. I'd like to give kudos to our outside staff. The reason we got the award was there was 5 water main breaks that affected the school district within the last year, and our outside operational staff was working all through the night, most of the time in the rain, to make sure that the schools had water in the morning for the students. And unfortunately, if the school doesn't have water, they have to shut down for the day. And the diligent work of our staff was allowed the schools to stay open. Okay, a couple of good news updates. We received the funding, or we're working on the funding from the state. It's $350,000. And then I will say that before or after I submitted this, I actually received a call on Saturday from Congressman Kiley. We made his short list of 15 projects that is going to be for the federal appropriations to build the water tank at Sweetwater. So as of right now, they are writing us into the federal bill to receive $1.5 million to build that tank, which is roughly half the cost of the tank. We are going to take that award and turn it around and try to get a state grant of another $1.5 million to have that tank fully funded. So there will be no district funds to build that tank. That is the goal. But that was good news. I got to speak with him. He wants to come and tour the district and see some of the stuff that we have. I'll meet a few of you board members. So I will set up a meeting with whoever would like to meet with the congressman.
There's a Kevin Kelly.
Kevin Kelly, yes. What's that?
Mitch and I met him.
Is he great? He was
Yeah,
he was very enthusiastic. Talked to many elected officials of that level in the past. And he was far more enthusiastic than others, so. And our federal advocate actually met with him in the hallways. And started to build that relationship for us with him, so. He's going to be, he's already submitted some letters for us for other processes, other grants, other fundings. He's gonna submit a letter. I'm applying to be the National Drinking Water Council Advisory Board. They're looking for rural water leaders to advise Congress. So he's going to be submitting a letter of support for us for that as well. So he seems like a great advocate for the district, and I think that we can build a relationship there. Received or submitted a grant application for the Cal Fire and the Safe Divide program. We should hear something by July or August about that funding. That's the $1.2 million. Just one more good news. I also attended and received this fancy certificate from the University of Southern California for executive education and public policy for the CSDA's Emergency Preparedness Summit. Didn't even know I got a cool certificate, but got one. We'll be attending the spring plenary for EDWA. We'll be attending the several state legislative committee meetings. And then we'll be attending the Aqua Conference in Monterey, May 8th through the 11th. So there's also a couple other things that I'm going to include here. I'm not going to go over extensively today, but if there are questions or comments for the personnel policy, this is a time for all of the board members to review and submit any comments to me that can be brought back to the policy committee for any changes or edits to the policy, to the personnel policy manual. The policy committee has met and looked this over, but we are still working through all of the edits. There was quite a few. Most of them are legal edits that are, as laws change, we have to keep our policy manual updated. So I would recommend that as a board, you read through this. And if you could have any comments back to me by the 18th, which is a week from today. And I know that's quick. The reason we're doing it so quickly is we'd like to have those comments to the policy committee by the 20th. So if you can't get them to me by the 18th, if you can at least get them to me by the 25th, so that we can make the second policy committee, because we will have 2 more committee meetings to discuss the personnel manual. So I guess you have 2 deadlines so that you don't have to feel like you're being pressured.
I just want to make a comment. I haven't been a foster parent, worked in foster care all my life. I very much appreciate having foster care placements included in the qualified leave.
I wish I could take credit for that. The state of California.
I just want to put it out there.
Yes, I agree. I appreciate that. I think at this time, President McDonald, if you'd like to stop, we can discuss the personnel policy manual. And if there's any questions from the board or from the public, I'd be happy to stop before we do the budget.
Sure. Yeah.
Can we do comments on your report?
Please, I apologize for skipping that.
I mean, the board, okay.
Well,
Just
Excuse me, the board computer is muted. We can't hear you.
I just wanted to note that we met with him.
okay.
Sheree?
on your March 26th, to April 1st, you have something here with water transfer consultant to discuss policy and VA involvement. What's VA?
The voluntary agreements.
Okay, then that's my other question. Down at upcoming activities, what is voluntary agreement mean?
So the voluntary agreements are. I'll try to get this as easily to understand as possible. any person or any entity within the state that has a state water right is going to be told by the state of California that they have to give up a portion of that state water right. If you voluntarily agree to give up a portion when you have it available for the greater good, then you can make an agreement beforehand so that you don't get hit harder by the state. So we're trying to set the parameters for how much we give up to the state, as opposed to the state telling us how much we give up.
Isn't there a little more to that in that if we do the voluntary, we get paid for the water?
Correct.
And if we don't do voluntary and they take it, we don't get paid for it?
So, yes, I will basically say that the volunteer agreements, we will basically make a water transfer. It's not really a water transfer. We will forced to take a water transfer, but we will get paid for our water.
Okay.
We don't have a set number. It's gonna be somewhere around what we got for the original water transfer. If we decide that we say we don't want to deal with the state and we're gonna wait for the state to tell us, they have a chance to come and take 40% of our water out of Stumpy that we have available. So we would basically be left with about 12,000 to 13,000 acre feet of water.
And this would be during drought,
This would be during a normal water year.
normal.
But we have, this year, we're not sure, it hasn't been quite declared at the state level yet, but we're anticipating an excessive water year. In a drought year, they would be able to take a portion, and then in a normal year, they would be able to take another portion. There's a whole bunch of qualifiers. It's kind of an if-then tree, and all that will be part of the water transfer policy. And that's what I'm trying to denote here, is that we're including that language and that legality within the water transfer policy, so that it's all encompassing.
If I could just add to that, yeah, that was the reason we were looking for the water transfer policy to be put in for the voluntary agreements. Because there's a certain amount of water that has to be passed through for the American River to go to Sacramento River, and we're part of that voluntary agreement, so we can work with the other agencies, so it's not a burden on us. And if you don't participate, then it's a mandatory 30 to 40% pass through, so.
And we can't use our Basio water for that,
It's,
totally different thing.
we're working on, we're working on.
Not yet.
Let me just say that I'm using all of our resources to the best of the district's ability. A lot of that has specific requirements that we have to meet before we can use it, so it's definitely something we're taking into consideration.
That does not seem right, them bullying us like that and all the small water.
They're not just bullying, they're not just bullying the small guys, they're bullying everybody.
And you act like you're surprised.
They're gonna take water from every water right holder, everybody, so. Not to continue to belabor this, and I apologize, President. A lot of the water rights legislation that we're opposing this year is a fight against this stuff. What we're trying to do right now is to get in front of the state and say, fine, if you want to do this, we're gonna give you our terms, and then you have to accept our terms, because we're gonna meet what you want, but we're not gonna be forced into meeting what you demand from us.
Very good.
Any more comments from the public? Yeah. Talk about the budget now.
I believe that if there's any personnel policy so if there was any personnel policy questions, or we can take some from the public as well.
I do, but you don't, the board's not gonna ask any questions.
Currently not.
We're gonna report back to him by the 20th.
Okay, page 14. What the heck is Bell Wine Cellars? On the policy.
Give me
Page 14.
or just a section, so I can,
Well, it's the last page, page 14.
oh, I apologize, that's,
I mean, did this come from Bell something wine?
I'm not sure why that's in there, unfortunately.
You guys will use a program that already generates a lot of it, right?
No, it's from another. I mean, where is this from? Where's the policy from? It came from somebody.
This was originally worked on before I worked here by the previous general manager. It was submitted to legal. I resubmitted it to legal because it had been another whole year. And we missed something. I don't know why that's in there, and I will,
Like it came from somebody else's policy.
thank you for that. That's a good catch.
Okay, well, I mean, I was just scanning. What's in here about drug tests? It seems like, because I've asked that in the past, who gets drug tested?
It is so our drug testing for our outside employees, because of the union, is a random draw.
Right.
It is in here. I would have to find.
And you are doing that?
We don't have any choice.
Okay.
It has to do with the DS basically DMV
Not saying like something.
What union are you guys significant with?
local 39 and local 1.
So you can look up that union agreement and that'll tell you.
I know that. I've been here 5.5 years.
I'm just saying.
The passwords on the exit interviews. I don't see any thing about the employee giving up their password to their phones and their emails.
We don't have any private passwords.
There isn't any, correct? Okay.
There's a spreadsheet that the HR keeps.
Okay. And on page 72. Let me see. It's stating that an employee with a business phone or emails are not supposed to be deleting any public records.
Okay.
But then it gives an exception for the general manager to decide if he wants to delete a record. And I believe in state of California, you are not allowed to delete any records. It's on page 72, the bottom part of the first paragraph.
Get there, hold on.
The last sentence of the first paragraph.
Happy to clarify that if you'd like.
Oh, hang on, Christina, you're really quiet. We gotta turn you up a little bit. Go ahead and talk now, Christina, sorry.
You can delete records. I mean, not all public records are permanent records, and in fact, many of them are only subject to a 2-year retention policy. And I believe I have to pull the district's retention policy, but even under the government code, there isn't specific delegated authority, and the general manager, if this policy is adopted, may have discretion only to delete under the purview of the law. Obviously, no one can delete records that are required to be retained pursuant to statutory or regulatory guidelines. But everything is on a regular retention schedule, and most records, especially emails, are subject to only a 2-year hold.
Okay, but then that should be specified that it's for the retention purpose.
It says, subject to the California Public Records Act.
Which refers to state retention policies and federal retention policies.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure it was clarified instead of, you can't just go in and delete them.
Any other public comment?
Okay, so we can do overview of the budget. So I don't have any, please note there are no revenues in the budget yet. Those we are working on now, and we will have those for the finance committee. This will be brought back to the finance committee for their input as well. Unfortunately, we had to cancel the last finance committee due to a lack of quorum. So I would really like to have their input on the different expenses. What I did was looked at the last 2 years of the budgets, and we looked at where we're projected for this year. We adjusted the salaries based on the COLA that comes from the union, and then any of those employees within those areas, if they are still able to get their merit increase, that's how we budgeted for that. Every other of the top section is basically employee related. So those are all salary and employee related. There's not much we can change Those are all mandated or set by union, set by the MOU. So those are there. The bottom section, which is our either hard goods or non-labor wages, can be adjusted. What you'll see in most of the sections is how much we are looking to budget. I included a percent change versus what was budgeted for last year, and a percent change versus what was projected. So you can see that some of the budgeted amounts were not close to where we're going to end up for this year. And so we need to make adjustments. Now, we are still fine tuning a lot of this budget. This is not final by any stretch of the imagination. And I'd be happy to take input on any of the sections that you feel you'd like to make more input. What we also did was we took each one of the sections that is non-labor wages and we broke out what the individual expenses are for each category. For a generality. Obviously, we're not saying how many screws, how many nuts, how many bolts we're going to buy. But we're trying to understand how much we're going to be spending with the various vendors for various projects. So if you go to page, sure, I'm not sure the number correctly, but below 5,100, you'll see a spreadsheet that kind of looks like this. Show and tell. These are the different categories that are all in those non-labor wage categories. And Adam and Jessica and myself sat down and went through all of our expenses for this last year and how much we spent with various vendors, and we tried to come up with an idea of how much we're going to spend next year. So some of them are professional services where we have like a software or a membership for a specific organization. Other things are hard goods that we have to buy or rent, or when we do like materials to fix or build something that is, broken. Those are all going to be in here underneath this one, 5,100. The one that I'd like you to really take a close look at is 5,600. And the reason for 5,600 is in the budget, we're going to delete the 5,500 category, which is customer service. And we are going to merge those two together. Because customer service and administration are generally the same thing. That we want to make sure that we have all of those fees together. Because what we're doing is paying for like Tyler out of customer service when that is an actual financial administrative tool that we're using. So it's hard to cross those over. So it's a little bit more difficult to see the relation there, but that's why you have a lot more data. So 5,600 is definitely our biggest section. And I'd be happy to take any questions at any time. You're more than welcome to stop me if you have any questions from the board. But if you think something is high or over, we can definitely address it. We can look at it. If you'd like to meet with me individually, we can also do that. But I'd be happy to take any comments from the board on the budget.
Director Saunders.
Did we put in for Comcast and then possible Granicus training again? Once we get the internet up, we'll have to probably do Granicus also.
So we did increase the staff development for that. Yes, that is included.
And then on the other hand, we did increase for the construction costs and all of that stuff, and it was higher than we expected, but as you can see, our increase still is not within 60-80%, so we're still within the range, so we can.
I believe there's gonna be more fine tuned out of this. I can't guarantee you a percentage number, but I think we're still a little high, and I wanted to come in a little bit more. I wanted to include everything, and so we can start pulling stuff back, as opposed to forgetting something later on and saying, oh no, we have to add this back in, then we have a problem.
Does any of this address any of the impacts from the mosquito fire in terms of, you know, leaving them with that? Good luck with the budget here.
So we included. We budgeted more closely to what we spent for the mosquito fire cleanup. Here, which we're hoping to get some reimbursement for, but we increased the amount that we're gonna be spending in those departments that are going to be doing the cleanup efforts. So the answer is yes.
Director Stoll?
I have little specific questions.
Yes.
First one, I think, is a typo in the 5100.
Yeah, there's a couple typos in the account numbers, if that's what you're
Okay.
referring to. Yeah.
It's 5100, the budget for, the projected cost for utilities.
I will.
Was, I think, a decimal point off.
Oh, sure. So I'm getting there. Hold on once, please. Can you tell me what section?
It's in the 5100 projected utilities. It's 52102 utilities. Under the projected 22-23, it reads $1,635.
And the year to date's only 817.
And I think there's a decimal.
I'm so sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry.
uh,
So it says the 10,000 for. Is that what you're talking about?
well,
Go
if
to
you-
the second page.
I don't have a page number, so. If you go over to the farther right, it's easy to,
Oh.
there's
yeah,
only
I
a
see.
539% difference.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
It's on the
definitely
list.
thank you, Miss Decimal. Yes.
Okay. And one of these, on that page that you showed everybody. This one, what is this dam permit fee?
So we have 3 dams that we have to have permitted and inspected every year. That'd be the Edson Dam, which is for Stumpy Meadows. We also have a dam for the Greenwood Reservoir, and we have a dam for the Lake Walton. And those are fees that we have to pay to the federal government to basically ensure that we have a safe dam.
And that's annual?
Correct.
Okay, because in the budget for 21-22. The original budget was 60,000, the actual was 148,000.
Yeah, so
And
those
so
were.
is that something we should carry forward?
Yes,
Good.
we just received, actually, after this was put together, we received the update that the dam fees were going up.
Okay, because that item was significantly under budgeted.
They're going up 8%.
Yeah, and there's a few different fees like that government fees that we've received, some were
Yeah.
and some percent increase. We get those about this time of year, so we're gonna incorporate those increases in the budget.
Okay. I did a review of utilities by department. And there seems to be real inconsistencies in the increase of what you expect the utility bills to be by department. I would have expected more of a common percent increase in utilities than the.
So if you notice, some of the utilities are not your typical utilities.
That's what I want to hear.
Okay.
I am confused.
So some of our utilities are, we have like ArcGIS, which is one of our utilities. We call it a utility. It's actually a software program that the operators use to do work out in the field. It's a tablet that they have.
Okay,
That they're able to mark where work is done so that it's basically like a working as-built drawing for the district. So as they fix something, they actually go in and put a dot. And so that's a utility because there's a fee to run that monthly fee. we did receive a considerable increase in the fees, the PG&E fee for the water treatment plant. If that's one of the things you're referring to, but maybe if you would like to have an individual conversation, we could go over all of the different utilities, because that might be easier than to go
Yeah.
individually,
All right.
line by line for stuff.
Yeah, I'd like to do that.
3,
This is a mess. I have to tell you. I don't know why you're reinventing the wheel. Why don't you use the budget that we've had for the last 5 years? It's all programmed in, it has totals. It's like, there's like no projected income, which you stated. Departments 52, 5,300, 54, 56 non-labor, and 61 have the column title of 21-23 instead of 21-22. 5,200 have no totals for 21-22. No grand totals, 5,400, all of them. This is not a complete budget review. You have no total page of each department and what is the total.
I completely agree with you.
Okay, and this budget, if anybody didn't add it up, it's 700,000 more than like this current budget. Because he didn't total it up. So you could see that. And also, they're now in, okay, why are you only putting December 31st as the year to date when you have at least 3 months worth of data that you could have put in there so they can actually compare what is being spent? That's not put in there. And then the December 31st total that you have is now 340,000 more than what the Tyler program states. So no exclamation. Okay, so I'm printing these in as written comments, would like to make part of the record. And that's just basic information.
Do I, it's like this person, does that go on anywhere where I'm able to see what?
Oh, I can send it to you.
No, I'm just curious, like if I.
Well, if somebody wants to make a copy of
It'll
it.
be
I can.
part of the minutes.
It'll be amended as part of the amendment.
I'm just curious, like 5% something like.
Absolutely.
And then you told me I would get my PRA answer today.
So the answer to your question was, when I generated the report out of Tyler, the numbers that I was utilizing were not the numbers that were out of Tyler. I deleted a couple columns and I did that by mistake. So I will take the blame that the numbers were incorrect and you were correct in the numbers that you had.
Do you want me to tell you what I think you did?
No,
Okay, you just queried Tyler the day that you
I
pulled
don't,
it.
thank you though. I
Okay.
mean,
And,
I literally just admitted I made a mistake. I don't know what else you'd like.
well,
me
I'm
to
just telling you, it was a
do.
simple
I'm a
answer.
human, I'm allowed.
It's not personal, this is business.
You just told me my budget's a mess, so.
It is a
I mean,
mess.
Great, you just asked me to use a budget that's the same for 5 years. It has not been the same for 5 years. The budget last year, there was nothing in the system for the budget last year.
Well, I don't know what happened. I've got a copy of it.
You the only one. I have a budget copy that is a PDF. There is not a spreadsheet anywhere in our system.
Okay. And then the other question is, how much money do you know yet, how much you're gonna put into CIP?
It is, did we not include that? I think we have it numbered, yes. I went over it. It was gonna be in our the finance committee meeting. I will
Okay.
apologize. I did not include it here. That is my fault.
And then will we have the CIP at the same time?
Yes, it will be. It is less than it was last year. Our CIP budget for the next year is less than what we scheduled last year.
Okay, well, it just, I think the detail section, when you hand type in numbers, there's chances of errors. And if you go back to Steve Palmer's like 3 years ago budget, he actually had a detail page that has everything all calculated. There is, unless somebody deleted that, but it is in there.
Noted.
Well, just because Steve Palmer had some sort of a spreadsheet of doesn't mean that it was in the system. That could have been something he generated on his own.
He just, no, I'm sure it is.
You don't know that. That's my point.
It's a PDF. Or an Excel spreadsheet.
Okay,
Right.
all right, committee reports. Irrigation committee,
The last. We had a irrigation committee meeting, where you appeared wasn't able to come. We went back over the irrigation ordinance. There were some, additions that were, put in, and also they decided they wanted to add, definitions and some more definitions that were originally there. So it's going to go back to the committee for review. Also, let me see, I think it was, the board, the irrigation committee is recommending that we, move the irrigation season to June 1st. And extend it through,
October 31st.
October,
November 1.
November 1. And I think that's about it.
Is,
You have something to ask me?
well, I had some,
A comment, from what you just said and what I am reading in the proposed. Revisions to that policy is the agriculture, the irrigation season goes from May through October. So there's a variability in there. Is there the possibility we could extend the irrigation season beyond 5 months?
I don't
If there's
believe
water
there
and
is.
generate income as a result, or are we stuck within a 5-month window period?
I don't
That's my
believe there is.
question.
It's on our current urban water management plan. It's like a
5
Yeah,
months.
and that's why I also just
Okay,
asked the DM, are we doing anything to solicit more water, selling of irrigation water if we have water at the ends of certain areas, like I know Cherry Acres has like 4 inches, 4.5 inches that they could sell. And the other ones are significantly more than that.
Yeah.
So,
It's definitely something that I'll look into. It's a good point that we have an availability of a resource and
yeah,
to be able to at least put the word out.
yeah, especially with the ditch lining, it's gonna increase that resource that's available to
yeah,
sell.
and more so cleaning up the ditches so that the water's flowing in there and flowing better. Yeah, have a comment.
Just-
I've been notified that notifications are sent out through the bills about irrigation season and irrigation availability, and that they're requested to contact the district office to receive more information.
But is that going to every person
Who gets a bill?
to get their water bill,
Mhm.
or that everyone?
It goes out in the bills. So it goes out to everyone who receives a bill.
the treated water bills.
Mhm. Well, and irrigation.
Okay.
The current irrigation customers are already on a notification system, so.
Right, but there's nothing that I remember. And here we go again, where, did I read the whole thing verbatim when I got my irrigation notification? That is there water available? There may be water available. Are you interested in more water? I don't believe it says anything like that to solicit an interest, and that's kind of what I'm looking for. If we get to this point where we determine we have more water available, do we send out another, should we send out another notification saying, hey, oh, by the way, anybody that's taking 2 inches of water that wants an extra half inch, you have the opportunity for this period of time to resubmit your application asking for more. It's usually what it's asking is, do you want the same or do you want less? It's not, do you want more? I mean, that's my interpretation of the letter I get.
Sure.
So that's why I'm suggesting if we have more, then we say, and I don't know if we have to put this in the. What's your call then? That if we have to say, okay, do we have to go back in the ordinance and put a trigger in there also that it's not making us more work, but anyway, that there's more. If there's more available, this is what needs to happen. outlined in a section in the ordinance also.
I think we can,
I think that's on Adam's radar.
yeah, I think that's something that we can definitely,
But we need to
There's-
document it somewhere where it's not just,
I think,
but there's avenues that we can advertise for more water availability. I don't know if it's, I don't, to answer your question, I don't know if it needs to go in the ordinance, but there are areas where we can get the word out better.
right, because like I said, we get the form and it says.
I
Do you
think-
want the same, you had, say in my case, I have 2 inches, it doesn't ask, oh, do you want more?
Yeah, I think that's easy to add to the form. I don't think we need to put that in the ordinance.
Okay, I'm just saying, it might be something that we need like a 2 week. I don't know, you know, some time frame that we have this extra
Sure,
little bit to throw out there.
we can definitely look into that.
Okay, thank you. I think I'm done. Do you have any other questions?
well, it wasn't
Or
really,
suggestion.
what kind of a question is that, like she said, is that we're gonna, the irrigation committee, I almost said we. The irrigation committee is gonna recommend that we do shift the season to start June 1.
Yes.
Now, my question is, we're not doing that today.
Yes, sir.
I don't see it in here where we're
It's the
doing.
water year declaration. It's under action items.
Yes.
Under item.
Well, the one
number-
where I read, it said it was starting May
May
first.
first, yeah.
That's where it said in here, May 1st.
I think it's pending the.
Where did I see that
It's the very second to last, third last page.
at? In which, in tab 5?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw it. It said,
It's an upcoming agenda item,
Yeah,
but the
so-
board has the ability to shift the.
I think the recommendation is to move it, so that would be your discretion.
But it's the
But-
last item.
but I don't, is that actually an actionable agenda item to
Yes.
do that? I don't see where it is in here. Okay, well, as long as we can get it done legally.
It says right there. Recommended action,
Yes, yes.
recommendation of irrigation season to begin June 1st.
Yeah,
Where do you see that?
Under the staff report. On page 2.
Point of order, let's not move ahead. So much of the-
Okay, yeah, all right.
Director.
As long as it's on there, it's all right.
Yeah.
Good.
Director, go ahead.
I missed it.
Was that, is that right? You raised your hand? Point of order.
No, I have to add on the irrigation. So, we usually don't see the irrigation, excess until this meeting as well, so that's something that folks are after you get the applications, absolutely, so. That's something that we need that time period where it gives out the fact that there's extra that can be given out, because usually the applications are in, we see them, we're like, oh, there's 70 applications available, so. That's one of the things to.
It might be something where we can go back even after the start of the water year and reassess. So we can figure out how, as an irrigation committee, maybe do that. Maybe we can add that to the next committee agenda. If you guys would like to discuss that.
yeah, I think that would probably be good, add to our irrigation committee agenda.
Oh, I have another question. On the limits on how much irrigation we can provide was based on the 2003 settings, according to what it said in here. Is that, should we audit that, or should that be audited to determine exactly how high we can go as far as the total minor additions?
It has to do with the capacity of stumping, but we could definitely look into that.
Okay.
It's probably at the point where 20 years we can go back and reassess.
Okay,
Especially since you've done the
Yeah,
ditch lining and everything else,
Right.
that things are now changed.
Yeah, there's definitely more efficiency within the system, so there might be more availability.
okay.
The comments? Questions? Okay, moving on to the Finance Committee, Chairman Miller. You're on.
Well, as has been pre-mentioned, we did not meet last month because of a quorum problem. And of course, I'm responsible for that because I had a family emergency and I had to go, so don't point the finger at anybody else on the committee, but I do see from 8A that it looks like we are looking to rectify that problem,
Mm-hmm,
where we have more than 3 members, which I heartily appreciate.
mm-hmm.
And I'm looking forward to the budget discussion at the next meeting. with the general manager, because I think that we can work through it in good order.
I look forward to it as well.
Okay, thank you, Chairman Miller. Ad hoc committee for policy manual.
So we've brought forward some of the policies and they were passed today. That was the leakage consideration, the procurement policy. And the legislative policy. The personnel manual is up for review, which we're reviewing now. And then the other policies that we're looking to look at next will be the anti-sexual harassment and discrimination policy, the environmental compliance, travel policy, and code of conduct in meetings. Those are the next policies that we have to for the next meeting.
And our meeting still every 2 weeks.
Hmm?
We are meeting
Meet
every 2 weeks.
And we're still gonna get done by June 30th.
And we're not gonna get it done by then. We'll stop there.
Okay.
So we're working, and hopefully we'll, any of the, take all of the recommendations and suggestions we have for the personnel policy. That was the reason we put it through, because it's a pretty big, expensive policy. So we wanted people to have a chance to see it beforehand, so we can get enough comments in and go through it. So thank everyone for the comments and suggestions. We are putting them all into place.
Three, good question.
Have you gotten draft policies from somewhere that you're using, or would you?
We've taken the current one. Okay. And reviewing them and then finding whatever needs to be updated. Adding that to it.
Okay, so you're not using like CSDA?
We use the CSDA template. policy,
Yeah,
because
okay,
where-
that's what I was asking.
That's
Yeah.
where some of the changes come in, so when you see something that you'll have to change, because it was a leftover from the CSDA, which is a boilerplate one, so.
Right.
A lot of times you'll catch it and remove it, so something like the Bellwater thing, things like that, those are things we go through and try to make sure we. remove it.
So are you trying to make each policy like uniform to the other policies, so they don't look like they've been done
Yes.
over 30 years?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And then at the end of the process, we want to have, basically the way to create policies, write policies, draft policies, store policies, report policies like that. So everything stays pretty much uniform and standard going forward.
And then you are gonna put a revised or, adopted at every bottom, okay.
So right now, we're keeping track of, every change we made, every final adoption, and every final update, and it's also put in that we want to make sure that it's updated on the website and also, so everybody can see the changes as well.
Thank you. Ad hoc grant writing committee, Director Stovall, you want to take that?
I'd rather go ahead and go with Director Sanders.
I brought.
I mean, that there's a beautiful outline.
If I left there's a table in the agenda that shows that all the work that we've done. The first thing I'd like to do is thank one of our community members, Morgan Galliano. She was very helpful in working with getting the Cal Fire Wildfire Grant Program. She helped work on that grant and submitted and got a lot of the letters of submission in, so she was pretty helpful in that. That's basically her background is with California Fire Safe Council, and she does the grant programs for that, so her expertise is very useful. So you can see the grants awarded with the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation for the upcountry canal lining. We also had part of that was put in some of the FEMA grants, so we moved over the placement of the canal, so we moved it down below Tunnel Hill.
And if I could just note, the numbers on that should be flip
Yeah,
flop.
that should be 80,000 is the amount of 160,000. And then the ones we submitted, so we have 3 million with the hazard mitigation grant. That's the one the county helped us submit. The 1.2 million for fire mitigation and vegetation clearing. It goes all the way from Stumpy down to Cool, to the back of Pilot Hill Grange and to the leach field. We did as our GM told us, the congressional appropriation was 1.5 million with Kevin Kiley. None of the senators responded back yet for the Senate appropriations, and we have $350,000 in the line items from the state appropriations. And then there are the further grant funding possibilities that we are trying to put out. And the main thing to add to that is the BRIC fund will help us do some of the feasibility studies if we're gonna do a new reservoir, so we don't have to do that by the district itself. And pretty much, that's about it. That wasn't covered, except we covered some of the other stuff in our general management report. So, there's any more questions?
You said that, you hadn't heard back from the senators, is that the federal senator, Feinstein and, Padilla?
We probably won't hear back from them until May or June. And so we requested the same project from all three. You don't really do multiple projects. So if one of the senators comes back and says, we like your project as well, then it will continue through both the House and the Senate. And when they get to the middle, they kind of merge like this. And that is really good for the district. Because if you have one, they don't kind of merge and they just kind of keep moving. But once they merge, and that would also be bipartisan. So that's what we're hoping for.
Like Kylie has,
I spoke to him personally on Saturday.
very good.
Next we have the ad hoc committee for audit and their meeting schedule. And then we have ad hoc labor negotiation committee, no meeting schedule. Okay, now we're on to the action. There we go.
Why is there no action on the MOU? It expired December 2021.
Because we have not been contacted by the union to update it. And the MOU states that unless negotiations are started, then they just continue.
Okay.
It's all about labor negotiations, and they haven't come to us yet with anything.
Well, I believe they were trying to get it all done last year and they kept quitting the rep and different things happened.
And we do have a new rep for the outside inside. So they have not contacted me. They have not reached out. They have not done anything. So.
Okay, no further questions or comment. Move on to action items. Interviewing the finance committee candidates, 10 minutes per interview. And we currently have 3 with no more than 7 maximum. So we have 3 today to interview, at least 2 that I'm aware of.
We've lost
3.
We may have lost one of them once. That was
Michael Thomas. We need to put Miss Miller up front to get her on the road again.
And she doesn't have to stand up. I know she's not feeling well. She's free to sit and answer questions from her chair if she likes.
And any statements you're about to make is be true. Nothing but the truth. Okay. There's some attorneys here. Anyway, so how do you want to begin?
I think if you want to have an opening statement, we'd be happy to take an opening statement, or if you'd like to raise an opening statement, you can take questions from the board.
Go ahead and ask your questions and see if I can answer them.
Would you all like to then go through and interview Ms. Miller? There is a letter of interest.
Should I read it? I can read that.
You're free to do that.
Okay. Dear Mr. Snyder, at the behest of my neighbor Mitch McDonald, I'm presenting my request to serve on the Financial Advisory Committee. I've resided here on the Divide as a homeowner for 30 years. For close to 40 years, I have worked in the medical profession as an RN. My husband and I also had a small horse breeding business. The past 10 years, I've served as a star volunteer for El Dorado County Sheriff's Department. Hence, I do feel for what people on the Divide think and feel about various factions. Hence, I do feel I have. My skill set encompasses organizational, observational, and deductive attributes. I will also add something called common sense. From our horse business, I learned about spreadsheets and other entities involved in running a business. If approved, I certainly would endeavor to do a good job for the Financial Advisory Committee and the Georgetown Divide Public Utility District. Thank you for your attention in this matter. Sincerely, Charlotte Miller. Any board members would like to ask her some questions, Mr. Stovall?
Yeah, according to the policy about roles and responsibilities of finance committee states that it's recommended that applicants have experience in finance, budgeting, accounting, manage and or other fields. Could you tell a story that relates to having some abilities in any of those areas?
In my profession, nursing, if you run a clinic or anything, which I did, you do deal with budgets, okay? Yes, you submit, I didn't deal with the numbers, I'm not an accountant, I'm not supposed to be something like that. I do know your business, having a small business, which, we had to interface with the tax board and, an accountant and stuff like that. And I did have everything done on a ledger,
Great,
on paper, not on an Excel spreadsheet.
but the mental concept is there. Yes.
Concept is there, yes. I understand having worked in a hospital because every department has a budget. And, you have to stay within the confines of how much money is available. And I also worked at Blue Shield where I learned a lot about things like HMOs and stuff like that, where they have a pot and, how this is done and so on and so forth.
Mhm.
That's basically it. I'm not gonna say I'm an accountant. No, you're not at all. I take my stuff to the tax man, thank you very much. He knows all the laws and the current whatevers. But I understand the concept of, let's face it. What makes sense as far as, okay, right now our economy is not very good. So the projects that you propose, are they really necessary right now? Or can they be put off to a little later time? Things like that, where it makes sense to do what's imminently needed that will benefit everybody. And also in spending money, you're better to buy a little bit better product than to buy something that's cheap, because you want something that's going to last a long time.
Mhm.
So that's just using this.
Mhm. Mhm.
Another question, this is a 2-year commitment. Do you anticipate anything coming up that's gonna interfere with that at this
I
point in
mean,
time?
death and taxes.
Yeah, yeah,
Other than that.
okay.
Well, taxes shouldn't keep you from still doing it.
You never can tell.
Director Saunders, 5 minutes left on the clock.
So yeah, most of us here have been on the finance committee as well, so it's thank you for stepping up and volunteering to do this. What do you think you can bring to the finance committee, and what do you hope to help the district with?
Well, I was going over the budget that you had, that I saw from the last meeting, not meeting before. I was at Mitch's house and we were doing it on a Zoom. And I made a copy of it and I was going through stuff. And I mean, I had a question like, okay, for example, you have overtime and then you have the other time, standby, excuse me. Okay, overtime use in my world was, was paid after 40-hour week was time and a half. Standby was like an on-call thing.
Correct.
And is there a difference in this time as opposed to that time? Is that why you divided it out?
So standby is always charged even if they don't get called out. If
Right,
they
you
get-
have to pay them for standing by.
And if they get called out, they get their standby pay plus their time and a half.
See, that was a question right there. That I noticed.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? Yes. I just wanted to say that I know her as a neighbor and she's thinks outside the box. And I like that about her, and she's intelligent and she's willing to ask questions and inquiring minds, like yours, you want to know, and we're a board that will be receptive of those inquiries. We want someone to keep us on the straight and narrow and alert to things, anomalies, something we might miss. Be as part of the team of the finance committee. You could voice the community's concern through that route. So I appreciate your willingness to volunteer and I want to be selected. Just want to say thank you. Anyone else? Sharif?
Oh, I love her attitude. I think that's what we need, people that have common sense and everyday knowledge, I think is gonna be very helpful.
Hmm.
Thumbs up.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
we have some numbers goobers. But it takes, everyone's got their, some people are the thumb and some are the pinky and some are other fingers. So we just want to thank you for being willing to step up, and we have another question.
Yeah, maybe you need to mention the new, you have to be here in person policy and very limited on Zoom.
Yes,
That needs.
I don't like Zoom anyways.
Yeah, that's fine. Well, it's just, it changed with the state. No.
yes, the Florida Brown Act, limits the amount of time you can be remote.
Mhm. Chairman Miller?
You didn't say last name, Bill, correct?
Mhm. She's
I
in.
want the board to know that we're not related. I don't want my behavior to rub off of you.
I won't tarnish our her reputation. Duly noted. Thank you. Thank you. Let's see, so I guess do we,
Accept the motion or,
as we go?
I think we should do them as we go, yeah.
Okay.
I make a motion to accept it.
It looks like we have two. I will call out for Mr. Thomas when the time comes, but we should do Miss Miller.
Okay.
Then I'm not gonna try your last name, Gorenik. Is it Gorenik?
No, it's Lawrence.
Oh, close.
With a G.
Can we just let me just vote on this one
Yeah.
quick and then we'll get.
Okay.
He's real anxious to get it.
We got the timers counting down. Go ahead.
Okay, can I make a recommendation on the change in the resolution?
What was the change?
It says that whereas Director Mike Thorburn and Director Mitch McCarthy have been appointed as board liaisons.
Yeah, we have that as a typo. We will
That
definitely
will
have that
change,
changed
so
before.
when
it
we
gets done.
vote for this.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
just check.
For the vote.
No, I'd like a clarification. So we have how many on here currently and how many are we looking for?
We have three. We're looking for as many as four. We have three applying
Okay.
today.
That's-
Mhm.
I already made a motion.
5-1.
We made it, we had a motion, Director Thornburg.
Committee.
Hold on, but
What?
we have 5, we have
Oh, we have
three
three,
we have
we
right
have three
now.
on the committee.
Three.
We have 3 right now and we got
Total of
3
seven.
candidates.
Yes.
Six.
So we can go to maximum of 7 like on the other.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. Considering-
Consistent that way. We have a motion by Director Thornborough to accept Ms. Miller as. finance
And I'll second it.
Okay, we have a second by Director Siemens. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Welcome aboard,
Congratulations.
Finance Committee. Yeah, thank you very much.
All right, now that I got.
Well, thank you for
by your
stepping up.
last name,
Yeah, thank you for. Yes,
Thank you.
We can call in Mr. Gordon's.
Gorins.
Yeah.
Gorins.
okay.
Mr. G.
In short.
So I believe if you have an opening statement, you're welcome to give an opening statement, or you can waive it and we can take questions.
I'll tell you what, how about we waive it? I mean, my opening statement would be, yeah, no, you need somebody, it looks to me.
We need somebody.
And, as far as my background, I'll have my resume and stuff.
We do.
As of 2 minutes ago, we need someone just a little bit less.
A little bit less, okay, well, yeah, if you want to fire me, that's okay.
What are you thinking?
But, I spent a long time in corporate law departments as well as in human resource departments, and some of that was involved with some fairly large budgets. Airjet Rocketdyne was a $3 billion company. My budget, I'd have to think about that, probably 40 people. So we're in the several $1 million range. I'm not an accountant other than, debits on the right, credits on the left, maybe I got it backward. Preliminary accounting, but other than that, most of the budgeting I've done was, with the accountants and approving things on the financial accounting side of stuff, including some of the regulations. As far as budgeting that I've done on a larger scheme, obviously I was involved with all the labor negotiations, so you're talking fairly significant amount of budgeting. Numbers don't, hit my head right now, but $7 million when I had 1,000 people, about 1,100 in the bargaining unit out there at Airjet. So you just do the math and well over Matter of fact, last budget, we had was $12 million, we shut the place. So as far as that goes, moving things around, I understand that. What I bring to the party, I'm a customer, customer to think about how much it costs me every month and whether it's being properly allocated, with the understanding also to be a steward. I mean, we have, water is very important. Water is important in California. I was born and raised in Cleveland. It's nice to have the Great Lakes, and that's why a lot of people are moving out of California. I think, that's my thing. Other than that, if you have any questions, what can I bring to the party? Hopefully some common sense, hopefully a little bit of expertise. And don't need. And I'm retired, so there's something to do.
Okay, well, that answers my question.
And you're local to Georgetown.
Yes, sir. 3 minutes away.
Mhm.
Can walk up here, but
Director Saunders, you have a question for?
Are you doing any consulting, legal and all?
not anymore. No, I gave that up.
No conflict of interest?
No. No stress in my life cutting trees down.
Definitely, the qualifications, most importantly, being a resident and ratepayer, someone that's, think outside the box. That's what I'm always about.
Yeah, good water.
And-
I
and-
just want to say.
We do the best water.
It's something to be proud of. Something to be very proud of.
Yeah. I won't take credit for that, but,
Well, I mean, I think it's wonderful.
Director Saunders, you can.
So, yeah, we also had one of our past finance chairs used to work for, Martinelli, so, just one of the things to remember is moving from the corporate to the public side, there will be some differences, so keep an open mind with that when you're dealing with government, so.
Yeah, sure.
But, yep, I mean, that was, basically what got me on the finance committee, because we want to be a steward of our water and make sure that we are, allocating our funds well, and that's the first thing. You're a customer and you want to make sure the savings and the rates are going towards our service. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah. We want to be data driven on any changes or increases, everything. We just want to know the community feedback on and ways that we might improve our efficiency, just questions that you or your neighbors or fellow community members have as far as bringing it to our attention. And
Do serve it.
yeah.
And one of the things, like, I'm not one of the finance committee into here, just to clarify that right up front. But I was more looking at budgets as if there's $90,000 in office supplies for that water treatment plant down there, and there's $90,000 of water here, or office supplies here. Is that a flag for you?
Yeah.
There you go.
Flag
It
for me.
wasn't before.
You're
That's
in.
why I'm at.
No, it's, yeah, it's kind of stuff you look
Like
at.
for
I
me
mean,
too.
It's, the budgets have come and it's continuing, it's like. How did
Well,
we
we went
miss
to
that?
zero-based budgeting, which you probably are not gonna do, but zero-based budgeting is probably a good exercise just to go through. Whether you follow it or not, it's a good thing to do. What do you really need? What do you, and I understand budgeting. I mean, it's really difficult to predict the future. It always is. And there were times where I missed my budget. And, you're looking in November and we're cutting travel, we're cutting expenses. There's certain things you have to do. Some of the stuff you save for next year. It's not an easy thing. So you want to make sure you get it as right as you can at the front end, because it's the entry from the back.
I wholeheartedly agree with you there.
Not easy.
Chairman Miller, you have any questions of Michael?
William,
Oh.
Bill. Yes, sir.
Mr. G.
I'm just listening. Okay. Yeah.
We need a draft since they open up there.
Are we gonna,
Close up.
Oh, I need it.
where are you going?
He's leaving.
Just keep closing the door.
None of your business.
He's cold.
Focus on what you were doing.
I make him like.
That's why you weren't allowed on the finance committee.
Yeah, but remember, I was the one that found that $90,000.
There you go.
Do I then have a motion?
All of a sudden, had a
Wait.
draft.
Yeah.
Oh, we got
Both doors were open.
Either one.
Oh,
I had my door shut.
Well, no, that one there was.
oh, that would.
Michael Thomas is transitioning from work to home, so I'm not sure if there's time.
Okay, if we have to, we can try to hold off until the end of the meeting, and if he pops back on. We can take him at that time, or if not, we can reach out to him again and bring him up at the next meeting as well.
You spoke to him and he's,
It's secretary.
We're cutting into this guy's minutes.
oh, great.
No, that's okay.
Well, I think, it looks, I thought we were, any other,
I think we had a motion.
yeah, motion.
I was trying to make a motion.
Please make your motion again.
Jesus, I make a motion that we accept Bill Warnick.
Lawrence, like Lawrence with a G. I've got a
To the
cousin named
finance
Lawrence
committee.
Lawrence.
Okay, do I have a second on that? Second. We have a second for Director Saunders. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0, it's unanimous. Thank you very much for your willingness to community involvement. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Ready then. Next up, okay. So we're gonna consider that.
Just want to do
Yeah. Yes, at this point, we'll suspend this item to further on later on in this meeting if the last candidate comes on and is willing to be interviewed.
It must be him.
I make the motion, we get all the cell phones off the table. Sorry, this vibration is wrong. If you can't leave it out, then I'll put it out the phone. Yeah, but they've got it on vibrate, it's been bouncing all along this table.
Oh, you were saying,
This is the first
No,
time,
it's not just yours.
Yeah.
this is the first time mine went off.
With everyone watching, texting me.
mine's been vibrating like crazy.
Worked calling for 11 more days. And I should have turned it off.
Turn the vibrator off.
Let's move on.
Yeah.
Quit your whining and let's move on.
Let's move in. Consider adopting the procurement policy.
I know what you said. Thank you. So today we are going to consider replacing the procurement policy that has been adopted, that was adopted originally on October 9th, 2018. With a new policy number 2135. This includes a provision and a resolution to allow the district to become part of the Uniform Public Construction Cost Accounting Act. Or Christina, could you tell me what this is called again? It's the CUPCA.
New acronym.
Here we go.
You're gonna ask what that stands for. I couldn't tell you right off the top of my head. I've always just called it CUPCA, but it's I can pull it up.
As far as I understand, it's a procurement that, I hate to use the word circumventing, but I'm going to use it momentarily and then I'm gonna roll myself back. So it circumvents the bid process because the bidding has already been done. So this group that we are working with is a conglomerate that goes out and searches for prices and bids from all these different entities. And we can then put out our project into their ethers and they can bid back to us with those already bidded costs. So for example, we're going to utilize this heavily with the paving contractor, as opposed to having an on-call paving contractor who is kind of on call and, hey, we have this work that we need done, and he says, oh, well, I'm busy for the next 4 months working on another job, I can't come in here and do your paving. We can utilize multiple different companies based on the bidding that is a set bid price. So that is one of the notable changes to the procurement policy. Other notable changes are included with the staff report, but I will go over a few of them. Table 1.03 with a subsection C states the contract authorities for and procurement limits for some of the executive staff here, myself and the operations manager and the office of finance manager. The change here is it gives the office and finance manager the same provision as the operations manager to make a purchase up to $5,000 without a prior approval from myself. This is within limits. It still has to have a PO required, so there's still checks and balances within the system. Jessica and myself still have to sign off on all of these. However, they can be approved at those levels up to that amount. The $45,000 is the marker for when a board approval is needed. Once a contract of any type hits the $45,001, it has to come back to the board to be approved to be paid. So I am able to approve without board approval up to that $45,000. Once we have a contractor, for example, we're working with the AMR company, and I'm just using this as an example. We go into contract with them for $43,000 to install meters. They come back and say, unfortunately, we need to increase our contract because we say we want more meters installed, or they say we had some additional costs. The second that it hits $45,001, I am required as the general manager to bring that to the board to be approved. If it's not approved, then we cannot spend the additional funds, and we are limited to the 43,000 or under 45,000. Other things of note in table 2.02, subsection H. I'm sorry, a little bit of a problem like that. We added a section in that requires a purchase order for any costs over $500. This was something that was asked to be included by our auditor, not our auditor, excuse me, our accountant. Anything over $500 has to be approved in the system before a purchase can be made. So that again includes the checks and balances. If one of Adam's guys needs to buy a tool, he requests it through his boss then requests it through Adam. Adam then puts the requisition into the system, and then it is approved by myself. If it is under $5,000, it can be approved by Jessica, and vice versa. If Jessica puts one in, it can be approved by Adam up to the $5,000 level. Anything that's over $5,000 has to be approved by myself only, up to the $45,000. And that is the same for section 2.2 for contracting and purchasing of supplies and equipment. So that's a very similar. One is supplies and equipment, and one is. These are actually two different charts. One is for new construction, and one is for maintenance. So the limits apply for both. All the other provisions that we're changing are within the different sections, and as you can state, most of these are the Uniform Construction Act that we are going to be utilizing, and that allows for up to $60,000 of non-bidded costs, and then we are able to accept up to $200,000 underneath this act. Anything over $200,000, and we have to go through a much more formal bidding process. All of that is laid out in the procurement policy. If you have any specific questions, I'd be more than happy to take them, but the procurement policy is attached for any potential issues that may come up.
I have a clarification question, but I'll yield to Director Thornborough.
Well, I got a couple statements to make. First of all, you got the wrong symbol on these charts.
That was mine. I mean, less than or greater than?
You were too slow.
Oh, well,
You were just too
I'm
slow.
sorry. I was wondering if
You are correct. That is the wrong alligator.
Yeah.
so for $500 and 45,000, switch around.
Yes, I apologize. I thought I was doing a good one there. So that you are right. It
The thing
wrong.
is, it was wrong in the previous policy too. This is nothing new.
Well, we will definitely get it right in this policy.
The other thing I want to say is that I'm renewing my objection that I've had for a few years now. That the 45,000 I think is way too high. It was much lower, and it was raised to 45,000. You weren't here. and it's got nothing to do with you. Well,
It's
it
higher-
kind
it's
of
higher
does.
than it's higher than I've ever experienced as well.
Well, what happened was, it was raised to the 45,000 to expedite change orders at ALT. That's why it was raised to 45,000. So it was supposed to, in my mind, and being a member of the public at the time when this was done. Well, okay, well, then after ALT, it would be put back down to where it was. So, yeah, I've been raising this, how many times have I said this? It's all right.
Can I clarify?
Yeah.
For transparency's sake, there is very limited times that I'm going to utilize this authority without bringing it to the board first. And I will give a perfect example. We did a salary survey that was $19,000. And I brought it to the board to make sure that you, as a member body, was on board with that cost beforehand. That was within my discretion to sign off on. It was something that I could have done unilaterally. I don't feel that that is the correct way to run this district. In my experience, it's been about 25,000 is where I think it's been in the past.
Yeah, I'd be fine with around 20,000. That's where I think it should be. So, but no, you're absolutely right.
I am only going on it's in my contract, which can be amended if needs to be. But I'm just going on what was there.
No, I perfectly understand that. I've been raising this concern for how long? Ever?
Director Saunders to comment.
Yeah, that was one of the things we realized as well, and to change it here, means we have to also change his contract. So keep that in mind. So if we want to change it, we can change the number and just remember that when his contract is up, we'll have to amend his contract.
We can make a note of that when it comes time for that.
Okay.
Director Stovall.
I'd like to refer to page 11 of 18. This is section 402 dealing with emergencies. And here it basically says, if there's an emergency and funds are required for that emergency, the board needs to meet every 2 weeks with a 4/5 vote to approve the continued expense of that. And what we ran into with the mosquito fire is that a lot of us, including this building, were under evacuation. So how do we work with that?
That
Reality based.
the instance of there are emergency provisions to meet remotely. So other legislative items allowed us to meet remotely.
Should that be addressed here or just that?
Because you don't know what the emergency is.
Yeah.
It could make you not come here. It could also, it could be any number of things.
The other question is basically the whole section 6 has been eliminated. Is that because of the first argument you made is that with the new procedures of not having to do an individual contract and then have to do another individual bid? Is that why that section has been removed?
No, the section was removed because when you go to the state or the feds, every grant program, every different agency has a different set of requirements that they have. And if you had set requirements from the district, they could be more onerous than what the state is requiring or the feds is requiring. And it would require a redundancy that would not need to be in there. And so that's why I put the statement in that says the district will follow all guidelines, guidance and purchasing regulations as laid out within that specific grant program.
All right.
It's just, we had old language from OMB in there. That was, I mean. Donna mentioned, Director Seaman mentioned that some of that stuff was 10 to 20 years old.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Dowd.
The $45,001 over that amount, you have to get a special meeting with the board. Is that in person? Or is it a phone call? I remember.
No, it has to be a public meeting.
Oh. So it's not just. Unless it's an emergency, right?
There are some provisions for emergencies, but the 45,000 is a hard limit. We have to come to a board meeting with whatever forum, the whole 9, to get that approved. It's not something that I can make a phone call and have somebody say, oh yeah, that's great, let's do that.
Sure. Sheree?
It actually was the Walton Lake emergency filter repair.
Yeah.
July 2017.
Oh, I'm saying,
No, yeah. And then by that January is when they raised Steve Palmer's from the 10 to the 45 because they were saying, oh, we couldn't do it. And I said, so does that mean he can sign anything he wants at 45,000? They go, no, it has to be in the budget. So I don't see anything mentioned in this that states it has to be in the budget.
So that's not technically true. Anything,
Well, I'm saying that's what we were told
Okay.
at the time.
I understand, and you can't really caveat that because there could be something that's not in the budget that needs to be done.
Sure, and then you have an emergency fund.
Well, it may not be an emergency, it may just be something that's missed or not budgeted for. So there are working caveats to that. Like I said, I'm trying to be very transparent.
Mhm.
I have brought everything to the board. I've not done anything, I've not signed up on any project, everything has been upfront. And brought to the board as needed, as everything has been brought.
And I agree, it needs to be lowered to like 20,000.
And you're absolutely correct, and like I said, it's got no, I was raising this long before you got
I
here.
take no offense.
Yeah, okay, good.
Well, to be honest with you, when I saw that, I read my contract, I was like, wow, that's more than I have seen, like I said.
Ever, yeah.
In my previous agency, it was 25,000, which I think is a much more reasonable number because it has to do with other procurement
Right.
policies, and we can amend this. It would be just amending some of the charts when we come time. I don't think that would be hard.
Okay. So at this point.
If I can make a
Anyone? Go ahead.
clarification issue, just because in an emergency, it could be difficult to meet every 14 days, and under the public contract code, because you guys meet monthly, you can have it ratified by or canceled, either one, by a 4/5 vote at every regular meeting under the public contract code. Your policy has just defaulted to the 14 days, which is required for public entities that meet weekly. And the only time you have that 14-day deadline is if you have an emergency operations policy that would allow your general manager to make the decision to circumvent the public contracting code when it's not possible to convene the board in order to get emergency work completed, in which case you'd have to meet within 14 days after that decision was made to ratify it by a 4/5 vote. But if the board is already circumventing the public contract code for an emergency and voting for that, then you just have to ratify it every next regular meeting until the emergency is done. That's just the legal standard. Your policy is a little more restrictive.
thank you.
At this point, do we make a motion to check with the amendment to lower the maximum limit?
I don't think we're making any amendments right now.
Other than the greater than and less.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, the typo of the alligator, we got.
So we have to come back, we have to come back at another time to.
No, we can adjust that.
Okay.
And
So it's not an amendment, it's just an adjustment.
it's a typo, we will.
No, not that, but the.
They're talking about
45.
the
We can't change that unless you want to amend my contract as well, and that's not agendized, so we have to come back at a later time.
Okay. Okay, then.
And we
can I
could
get
do
a
it,
motion?
they could do them both at once.
Yeah, we could do it it would be in September
Okay.
or October, whatever the date is.
Can we get a motion?
Motion to accept the procurement policy.
Do I had a
No,
second?
because we are amending the procurement policy to bring it down to 25,000, and we can also change the emergency to monthly if we want. So those are the two changes we can do.
We
If you're
can't,
accepted now, you're accepting the 45,000, so.
well, that's right, but like we just said, when we go to do it, we can't do it there and not do it in his contract, because the contract already has it, so.
So you
In
want,
September, what we could do is have an agenda item where we change his contract and this one too at the same time. We should be able to do that, couldn't we?
I would just rather have some policy that's clean instead of changing it again.
I would ask for one thing, we really need to get this.
All right, we can do it.
Uniform.
So just remember that we'll, all right, so it's passed, your motion is that, remember that we're gonna change it to 25,000 in September.
What are we changing?
Right.
The
General manager's
General
purchasing authority.
manager, purchasing authority.
Right.
You got that, Elizabeth?
Are you seconding it? or-
Second, who's, you
Well,
second?
I'd like to hear the motion again.
Yeah, I'm a little confused on what's talking about here.
I don't think there's a motion included in that. I think that's just more of a note for staff to bring that back to the board in September.
No, I
Except
made
the
a motion.
typo.
The typo is the only thing, we have the bad, less than equal to, less than greater than sign.
Okay,
The motion would be to accept the procurement policy and then the direction to staff would be to bring it back in September with the change in general manager authorization.
But then this is counters that.
We would update all that. All that, what he's saying is we'd update all those numbers.
is seconded by Director Saunders.
Well, he just restated.
Okay, then,
See, he was trying to
Yeah.
get down and understand.
okay. So,
Judging by the look on her face, I
Who's-
don't think.
so
he
you
was
made the-
successful.
initial motion, it was seconded by,
No, it wasn't seconded.
Nobody
I
seconded
think he
it.
made the.
can I get a second?
For which motion? I heard you say something and,
Who's on first?
yeah,
The motion is to accept the procurement policy and the direction to staff would be to bring it back in September to approve the general manager authorization.
thank you.
Initial, that's the initial.
That's the motion. That's,
You, do I get a second?
I'll second that.
Okay.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. That's the procurement policy.
And one that to be free that.
Yes, okay, thanks, Elizabeth, for
Well, that only took
taking.
about 3 years to get done.
Wow, yeah. Zipping right along to the water year declaration and projections.
Yes.
So this is something that has to be done as a requirement of the state every year. What we're declaring is that this is a normal water year. Stumpy is full, 100% full. We are saying that the water shortage contingency plan, as was stated, is going to be at level 0 or no stage. The state has pulled their requirement for stage 2. We are also stating within this that we are, because we had such a wet year, and the recommendation from the irrigation committee was to move the irrigation season to June 1st, 2023. It would then end November 1st, 2023. So we would be moving, just taking 1 month and moving it.
Offset, yeah.
Offset, correct.
Shifting.
Any board, go ahead, Director.
On page 2 of 2 up at the very top. 1, 2, 3, 4, about 5 lines down, it says draft SDA requires analysis to cover a period starting July 2023 and ending in June 2022. Something's wrong with that picture.
Oh, it should be 2024. That's just the typo.
Just checking.
So this is something that we do every year, so we recycle the staff report. I apologize for that. Basically, what this is an annual supply and demand assessment that we have to submit to the state. So we're gonna basically submit to the state that we are at normal water use and we have enough water to go through this year and next year.
Okay. Also, the second chart doesn't have a page number. Talks about water demand, table 2. There's 3 items in there identified as loss.
You have to, so sorry, is it?
It's the second page of the tables. And it's called table 2, water demand.
Excel
You start-
spreadsheet.
Oh, table 2 water demands?
Yes.
Okay, yes,
The last 2 lines of the single family says losses.
yes.
What does loss refer to?
So loss could be referred to water that has been treated and not made it to a home. Or was stolen out of the system by not being metered or lost through a fire hydrant. Or it could be that was diverted from Stumpy and didn't make it to the treatment plant due to evaporation or infiltration.
And then with agriculture, it could include canal leakage.
Correct.
Okay.
And evaporation.
And also leaks with the.
Yes. So any leaks that are outside, on the inside of the customer's meter does not count though. Only leaks that are not metered.
So this says that the potential losses in agricultural irrigation are 2,300, what's the unit,
Sorry, I just made it really small. I think it's cubic feet.
acre feet? So it's
Acre feet.
2,300 acre feet that potentially could be recovered through canal lining.
That is correct.
Thank you.
I wouldn't say 2,300 would be recovered, but
Yeah.
probably.
That's a big difference.
Because
So when we started doing canal lining, it's somewhere in the 800 or so that we have recovered so far. So that could definitely continue if we do enough canal lining.
Yeah, 30 and 200 kilowatts, so it's come down significantly.
Thank
And
you.
we're not necessarily tested based on our raw water losses. Because that water has not necessarily been treated or had a cost put to it. We are more susceptible to our treated water losses by the state.
Thank you.
So the only thing I'll add is, when we get the final, we still have to ratify the final. Draft. The report as it would. With the, year plus one with drought.
That will be done in June. Yeah, so we'll be bringing this back. That is a report that gets submitted to the state every year due July 1st. It is called the annual water supply and demand assessment. And it basically states that you can do your year plus one. Then I believe they have a 5-year outlook on how much water the district should be worried about conserving, basically, if we had dry years through the process.
So that was a new regulation that kicks into effect this year, so. If anybody remembers my multiple reports during the years,
I don't think it's
it's no,
It's
it's
still-
still effect July 1st.
I thought it was 2025 is when they actually are gonna start requiring.
No, this one, well, the AWSDA is due July 1st, 2022, and that one is, not.
I don't think they're gonna, I don't think it's enforceable until 2025 is what I'm trying to get.
Correct, not enforced,
They're doing like a test to see how this process is gonna work.
but it's the basis.
Sounds like more like a memory test to me.
But it's basically the basis of all the water use efficiency, but this was done into terms of the, when we did the drought contingencies to develop everybody's water shortage contingency plan. And it also is a way to alert the state ahead of time for areas which may be at risk. Because there's a webpage where you can see everybody's risk for, drought resiliency.
The layman's term to this is a stress test, is can your district survive the stress of a dry water year? So they're gonna basically take and assume that next year we receive 0 drops of rain. And can your water district make it through this whole year and all of next year?
Is Alexa still out there?
When she went home, it's almost 4:30.
Chairman Miller.
Just had a question about the moving from the irrigation system, moving it from May to June. Which automatically pushes it to November, but I'm assuming we have the flexibility to cut it off in October if we have a Noah's Ark rainy season in
Yes.
November, right?
Yes, the discretion is always left with the board.
There'll be
I
a
want
lot
to
of,
make sure we weren't stuck on.
Daryl always had a complaint that moving the irrigation season, it stopped their work that they needed to do in October before it got really wet on the ditches.
So unfortunately, because of the fire, we lost the opportunity to do it last year, so we're gonna try to get some of it done in the next 2 months.
Right.
So we actually are hoping the nice weather that we're having now
Yeah.
will allow us to get what we wanted to get done last year done.
But on a yearly basis, he
But I-
means October is what he was saying.
And I don't think this is going to be a yearly thing. This is going to be reassessed every year.
Okay.
So we're not making this like a new set that it's gonna be June, November. It's going to just be for this one year.
Well, I think that was his one liner he always threw at everybody when we wanted to move it 2 weeks or whatever, that it was cutting into his staff getting the job done, and there was no flexibility on doing it then or doing it early.
I understand.
So now we're having a different look at it, and we can get it done when it's available to get done and move on.
Yes, and we're gonna flex and we're gonna be accommodating to what's happening.
Wonderful, yes.
Now we don't have to have the boys out there reading meters, they can be working on the ditches.
No, those are different people.
Sort of, yeah,
Director
it's
Sun.
Department.
not exactly.
So one of the easier ones is, this is, definitely gonna be a regular water year. We have, some years spoiled spilling. The restrictions are off, so we don't have any, water shortage contingency plan to do. The other thing to determine is, it's starting to get hot now, so that's the one thing, to make sure that, hopefully we have enough, ground saturation, so, it gets through May and doesn't, affect anything, so the June start doesn't hurt irrigation, but as we've seen, most of our fire days, it comes in September, October, so having irrigation at the later end is, gonna help, keep summer going, and that's a lot of time where they didn't have water, and that's why, the irrigation, customers and the committee has pushed for it to go over, and this is something that we will evaluate every year, and as, the question was asked, as, Mr. Miller brought up, if, you see a deluge early and it starts raining, then we can always, cut off irrigation and refund, so.
And what we found from the mosquito fire, having those ditches full was an asset, not a deficit. Because that's where they were pulling water from. And it would be much safer for our community to be looking at that kind of situation than the alternative that we have been seeing.
Yes, I agree.
Can I get a motion to pass the water year?
Well, I've been doing it all.
If I may make a motion that we declare this a normal water year, our water shortage contingency plan is, we are at level 0 for, our water shortage contingency plan. We still will, ask our customers to conserve voluntarily.
Motions are supposed to be like yay long, okay? Jeez.
On the water year. And we're going to, move the irrigation season this year from June to
May to June.
from May to June, and it's gonna run, the season will run from June to October 1st.
November.
No, all right,
June to November 1st.
June 1st till November 1st.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
All right,
Motion passes unanimously 5-0. Lastly, on the actions item list, D.
Yeah, so this is a bit of a cleanup item. We have a bit of a conflict at the May 9th meeting, so. Because it's a regular scheduled meeting, we have to cancel that meeting and schedule a special meeting for May 16th. The reason for the conflict is the president, President McDonald, Director Saunders, and myself will be attending the Aqua Conference in Monterey, so just due to lack of participation, we are looking to move that meeting 1 week in advance. And we are also trying to schedule another special meeting for April 25th. And this would be to do another set of interviews for the legal counsel under closed session. And with the opportunity to potentially select one as the new district counsel. Or continuing to picking a council. However that works.
So we don't have any time for it.
What's that?
We don't have the time. for it.
It'll be a regular schedule, 2 o'clock. Both things will be at the regular schedule.
oh, so you just, okay, so you're just moving it a week later.
Yeah.
Okay,
And then we're doing. the
Still on
25th as a
Tuesday,
special,
okay.
Yes.
all right.
Okay.
Oh,
Do
the
I have a
20
motion to accept the approval of the changes for the April and for the May
I
meeting?
apologize, I'm gonna say, that's the 23rd, the 25th meeting is at 2:30, excuse me.
So
All in
That's the
favor?
first time I ever heard you say that.
We Yeah, he's the initiator.
Hmm?
All in,
Aye.
hold it.
We make sure things get emailed out because the meeting agendas, the last one wasn't emailed. Usually do it when it's posted and,
I got the email.
well, there was nothing sent. for-
I got the email.
I got.
Well, you're a different.
No, I have a personal email that I have sent out into the,
Well, I got it Monday morning.
I got it Friday.
Okay, well, it's not, and I heard from another person it didn't go out, so I don't know if they're using a different email list or.
We will
what.
check it and we'll.
That's because we don't like women. So that's-
What's a matter of minutes? That could cost you your job.
That's what she said. That's what she said.
No, I don't want to, yeah,
Okay.
there's a history there.
Yeah, she knows.
So we have accepted, okay, so all in favor?
I,
Aye, yeah. Yeah.
All right,
Motion
all right.
passes 5-0 to make the changes to the times and the dates.
But 2:30 is only for the.
The April
25th.
25th.
All right.
Okay, okay. All right, as far as public hearing, we don't have one.
And isn't this the 25th of the closed session?
The 25th will be a close session.
Okay, and now we got board member requests for additions to future meeting agendas.
Just have that, the Lafayette nomination will be on the, next agenda.
I want somebody to make.
Thank
a note.
you.
We're gonna. be
Thank
out
you.
here before five
thanks for
o'clock.
being here.
We have a report out.
We have a report.
We have a report on a closed session if you want to hear it.
No, they don't care.
See you later, bye.
You're good, guy.
Thank
And they
you.
usually be members or-
Thanks for coming.
No, they're just public, just like you. Maybe.
Ooh, Steve Dowd does.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you for
Well, you
coming.
did.
Okay. So board member agenda, okay, you just mentioned,
Yeah, I'll send that to you.
okay. Anybody else have any future recommendations?
Nope.
Oh, wait a minute. What about the interview with Michael Thomas?
Yeah, that'll just be tabled and continued. So his will be continued.
Oh,
Maybe there.
He's not, he was on Zoom, so he has not rejoined.
you weren't gonna reach out to him?
I, not right now. I don't
Okey
think it's
dokey.
necessary.
I have a question.
Yeah,
I brought up an issue several months ago about changing the policy to include the smart meter. At this point in the agenda, and then I was kind of told that's not the way to put an item on the agenda. So I'm kind of confused.
So we took your suggestion.
Yeah.
And it went through the policy committee first,
Right,
and then they put it on the agenda, so it was exactly correct.
but I gave it to you to give to the policy rather
Correct.
than to bring it up
Correct,
to everybody's knowledge.
that is correct.
So we ask this question, the answer goes to the GM.
You could bring it up here and then it would go wherever we go. So you could bring up, I'd like to bring up the water smart policies and you add it and then it would go to the policy.
So say you have something to add, it may or may not rise to the level of a board agenda, but if you have something that you would like us to do, then you can say,
Okay.
hey, we'd like you to do this, and then it might be something that staff is able to just do it.
Okay,
If it's something like the policy that needs to be updated,
there's a path.
there's a little bit of a path, and so we're trying to utilize that policy committee because then it gets a lot more eyes. on
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, just to clarify, because I was
Sure.
confused at that point.
any public comment regarding doing a closed session?
So we are not gonna have an actual closed session today. I can just report out of the closed session that we were successful in defending the case in the.
It's, we're reporting out.
I'm reporting out. I'm not going to closed session.
Oh.
Yeah, so,
I'm sorry, okay.
yeah, no, you're totally fine. The case-
Not a report out.
What's that? What's that?
What'd you say, Christina?
It's not a report out. There was no closed session.
Yeah, we're
Okay.
just.
It
saying that they're
wouldn't
not
be a
determining
report out
anything,
because
doing
it's not a
anything.
closed session.
Goodness, would you get it together over there? My announcement is there is no need for a closed session. Because we received notice that we were successful in defending the case in the Craig versus GDPUD small claims case. So there is no judgment in our, the judgment was in our favor.
Okay. So we would have reported that before they left.
Yeah, I think
Yes.
We're gonna hear about it.
So, just want to make sure that the minutes reflect that.
Yeah, okay,
Oh, they will, yes.
okay. And with that,
and so the other item, there's nothing to report, is that?
There is nothing to report. We have not done anything with the.
and with that,
Okay.
11B. And yes,
The next regular meeting will be
So we,
here at state.
yes, we have to keep it that way, but now it's been a change as a board agenda. We voted on it, so it's changed.
so
We
the
can't change it beforehand.
next meeting date and it will be May 9th, no, 16th. April.
The 16th.
April.
May 16th.
May 16th.
May 16th,
That's
Yeah.
the next
That's the
regular
next
regular board meeting.
meeting.
We have a closed meeting.
on the
Okay,
25th.
There is no, the next regular scheduled meeting is until.
yeah, and at this point,
You'll know when you get the
can I
email.
can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
No, that's
Aye.
regular.
Motion.
Well done,
Let this
guys.
be noted, it's at 4:39.
I was gonna.
I think we broke a record and I'll
Yeah.
take that off to 7 hours to offset my,
Are we gonna average them out now?
wow, what am I gonna do? It's not dark.